Okay. What elo was the scrim partner? Anybody know?
It was
They had
our internal, so it
Oh,
was
okay, okay.
I don't
probably
know.
like 2 point. I wrote it down. Hold on.
Like 2.7
I calculated it
for
out
both of
to
us.
2.5 was their elo,
Okay.
and then
So what is that?
yes,
Somewhere in plat?
Yeah.
yeah, low plat.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So what were these internals for? Was it just for fun or was it for like genuine
To get the other
improvement
team
type
kind
stuff?
of started.
this is
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
this,
gotcha.
a few
So who
trials
should I be
here.
looking at today? Which team am I focused on? So I recognize
Right
some
side
names on both
generally.
sides.
Yeah, let's
Probably Thumper's team.
Thumper's team?
try to
Okay,
look
we
at
can take a look at
Thumper
Thumper's
and
team.
Akvel. Yeah, those two.
Okay,
They're here.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Oh, never mind. And someone else now. Okay.
most people are more question.
All right. So let's see. We got some weird comps that are being played for sure. Um, I think that like at this level, you can kind of get away with playing anything, to be honest with you. But I think it's good to have some sort of structure to what you're playing. And the reason why is because I think I've mentioned this to you guys before is that certain characters can kind of flex in between multiple different comps that are really solid. So you want to try to invest your time into characters that are flexible because then you can sort of develop multiple comps over the course of your time playing. Okay. So right now, I think that yellow team's comp is fairly okay. Obviously, the Sombra is a little bit weird, but this comp is something that is pretty all right. With the Cassidy, a lot of times you'll usually see like a Baptiste Ram comp, and then with the Kiriko and the Ram, you'll typically see something like maybe a Sojourn, something a little bit more fast paced than a Cassidy. But we have a matchup against also kind of a weird comp. It is Kiri Lu with a Trey, but now we have JQ and Farah, which is interesting. So we'll see how this plays out. Okay, we got Cass Lucio taking an angle first fight. We got this going on over here. Let's see. Oh boy. Yeah, so what you'll notice is because we have our Cass Lucio on a really aggressive flank, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But the problem when you take a character like this so far away and like this sort of stuff happens is you leave characters like this uncontested. So what you'll notice is our Kiriko felt pressure to TPN on negative HP because they were getting harassed by a Tracer in their backline. You guys see this?
Yep.
So this is something that we would like to mark. And what we can do is we can either mark it and like pay attention to it, or we can try to avoid it by like walking forward or taking some sort of rotation. So I think what we want to try to do is probably start stacked as a team to see what comp they're on to get information, because starting stacked is very like safe. So if we have 5 people right here, we can kind of just look with our eyes and see, okay, what tank are they on? What backline do they have? Do they have a tracer? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then maybe we want to be looking to go take more angles and we don't really worry about carrying our Kiriko as much. But I think here we were a little bit like early with this kind of angle. Sorry, Kiriko ends up dying first, which is something we definitely want to avoid. Okay. Now it might still be winnable depending on how valuable our angle is. Maybe we can get some trades.
It was not.
Farah looks pretty weak. Yeah, we're probably gonna bleed out here, so we don't have healing. Yeah. So now we reset. Let's see how this goes. Good. Thumper should be going in first to kind of scout and see where everybody is. We get a nice hack. Okay.
Yep.
I think when we look at an example like this, I think the idea for the hack is good. But I think a lot of times when you're playing a Sombra, you're going to be playing her in like one of two ways. One is going to be a more stable manner, which I think is the most common time to play Sombra. Is a Sombra that's more like stacked with her team. So almost like a frontline Sombra. And I think the most recent iteration that I can remember of Sombra actually getting playtime was when Malga first came out and there was like a Sombra Reaper comp that was going around. And you would kind of just play Sombra stacked with your team and just shoot the enemy Malga to get your EMP as fast as possible. The days of that are kind of over. So I feel like you can maybe lean into a more aggressive style of Sombra where you take like soft off angles. So instead of being like hard stacked with your team, maybe you take like a soft off angle somewhere over here to like hack the tracer or something like that. So I don't think this is necessarily bad. I think the idea of like scouting early as Sombra is really good. But when we go for a hack like this, we want to hopefully have follow up on it.
Yeah.
And we also shouldn't be opposed to like hacking tanks and stuff like that too. It doesn't always have to be like these flanker characters. But I think when we hack this tracer, the chances of us successfully getting a kill off of it are fairly low. And then when we use our translocator, you'll notice that like none of our team is currently really in right now. Like our team isn't really doing much. So everyone on blue team is going to turn around for the Sombra because the Sombra is an easy kill. So like here, for example, they're just going to find you because they're hunting you down. So I think there needs to be a little window of like coordination here. So instead of our Sombra just being isolated alone, there's more stuff for blue team to kind of look at.
Mike here is calling the Pharah, but we react way too low.
Yeah, I think
I was getting pressure about the queen at the beginning of that fight, so I was not able to push her too hard because I know I can get one shot.
yeah, I feel like walking through here against Pharah Queen is a little bit awkward. I would probably recommend that your whole team actually just goes here. And the reason why this feels a little bit more comfortable is because it's easier to walk through like these two chokes at the same time than it is to walk through like this from a low ground perspective, where like you might be trying to like walk up this way and then someone's shooting you from behind, and it just feels really, really uncomfortable. So I'd probably say to like stack as a team here, and then on like a 3-2-1 push timing, you could drop a shield, you could have your Cassidy swing through, be really brave, take some shots in the Pharah, etc. We should really be playing for like hinder value. We should really be playing for Cassidy hit scan value. I feel like in this fight, there wasn't a lot of chances for our Cassidy to peek their Pharah. And that's definitely a problem, right? Because if our Cassidy's not shooting this Pharah, then who is shooting the Pharah? Well, it's probably not our Sombra because they're dead. It's probably not our Lucio. It's probably not our Ram. It's probably not our Kiriko. So if you kind of look at the comp that we have, we want to be able to like give our hit scan some breathing room to shoot their flyer.
I could not.
Also here, if possible, I think our tank needs to be aware of the Pharah and go into Nemesis form and actually get this kill himself. I think this is a super, super killable Pharah, even from like here. Actually, looks like we end up cycling our Nemesis form on the
my
queen,
God, that
unfortunately.
Ramatra,
Yeah.
he was on the-
Yeah, it just looks like we're not fully aware of what the major dangers are. So we also are struggling to find a really good like full push at we had like Lucio having their own battle over here. And
You lagging?
Me lagging.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're
All right,
good,
you're
man.
lagging. You're a robot.
oh,
Think of it a second. I'll be alright.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You
Yeah,
good?
Is
I
it
think
fixed?
we're good. I think we're good.
Yeah,
I think
you're
we're
right.
good.
You're good.
okay, cool. I've had that happen a couple times. My bad. What I was saying is it didn't really look like we were playing as a team taking a big 3-2-1 push. It looked like there was like, you know,
Robot.
Robot again. What the fuck is happening?
Damn.
By the way, Moon, can you? My friend Max is one of a support main. Can you move him into the chat here? You want to listen to the VOD? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I can. Oh,
No, where'd my VOD go? I think it was this one.
Pretty sure.
Give me a sec. He joined Moon. You can
It looks like we fully lose this, which is fine.
yeah.
Let's take a look at point number 2.
I
Let's see. Okay, we're on Sigma now. Interesting.
yeah. He told me at
Hmm.
the he told us that he will switch Sigma, and the plan was there. The plan was me, Sigma, and Kitty, and Sombra playing on the one side, and me and Lucio going on the other side. But
I see.
I'm not used to play like that, and you're gonna see that at the end of the scrim. But when I switch the Itscan for the Tracer, I start just farming.
Yeah, I'm not really convinced that Sigma is the right swap here. I can't really see a justification for that character with the comp that we have, with the comp that they have. Doesn't really make too much sense on paper. I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a horrible character to play, but it really doesn't make too much sense. I feel like the Ram is probably more solid and give us a little bit more counterplay against the Pharah. You could play something like a Ram would be fine. Orisa would probably be fine. I think there's other options that we could kind of go for and probably feel okay about ourselves. The other thing that I think is really important, right, is that when we're pathing in a certain way, I think this is probably going to be something that I repeat over the course of this VOD, is when it comes to our backline, right, this is the main person right now that the enemy team is clearly targeting. So what we want to try to do is path in a way where my backline isn't under pressure, okay? So what we want to try to find are like really nice positions, really nice locations where my backline is like difficult to access, difficult to reach. They're playing at a safe distance. It's difficult for the JQ to reach them. It's difficult in theory for the Pharah to reach them. Now, some Pharah players, of course, are going to go take like really, really big off angles and they're going to go off and do their own thing. But I think it's logical to assume that this Pharah right here is not going to go and take crazy off angles. I think she's actually going to be more inclined to stay with her team a little bit. Does anybody know why?
Because the cast is already in a really good spot.
Because our cast is in a good spot?
Yeah, he's in a pretty good spot.
Doesn't have to do with our team. Doesn't have to do with our team.
Oh, they don't have the resources to help her if she
There's not
falls
much.
up like that.
There's not much air cover in this point.
Okay, air cover could be a part of it, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for.
She doesn't have enough space to do her thing.
No, it has something to do with the comp that they're playing.
I think she just doesn't
She
get
doesn't
any help.
have peel. She doesn't have peel.
Well, if we think about this,
That doesn't
right?
have
Like
much
as a Pharah, would you be happy with like a Moira on your team?
No.
No, please.
Why?
Please. Because
Hard to
she
heal.
cannot reach me. The only
It's
character
hard
that
to
can-
heal, yeah, right? What about with like a BAP or something?
Yeah, also pretty hard.
I mean,
Still.
Only if the BAP's good enough.
I mean,
BAP is
I coach
doable.
like probably the best BAP on the planet. He's not hitting those shots, you know.
Yeah, I know.
So it's really, really, really hard to justify, like, you know, a Baptiste with a Pharah, unless, you know, don't take my word on that. There are some top teams that can make it work. But they played in a very like specific way. At this level, it's pretty difficult to assume that like a Lucio Kiri comp is going to have their Pharah flanking a lot, because typically in a Lucio Kiri comp, the people that flank are going to be like hit scan characters, like maybe something like a Soj or a Cassidy, or maybe even a Soldier or something like that, right? So when we're or possibly a Genji too, even though he's not a hit scan. So when it comes to a character like Pharah, because she's flying around a lot, it's really tough for a character like Lucio to care for her, right? Which means that which character is going to have to do the brunt of the healing for the Pharah?
Kiri.
It's going to be their Kiri.
But it's less
But
travel
if we also
time,
think
you
about
get
the
cut
tank
off.
that they're running, where's their Kiriko likely to be?
Within
with
range of
their
her.
tank.
Somewhere behind the tank or something, right? So if we think about this
Or a
logically,
Tracer.
if the Kiriko has to also heal the tank, then it kind of makes sense that their team's actually going to be stacked a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be difficult for them to take angles. So I think what we want to try to do is have our backline be as far away at the beginning of the fight from their front line. So if we know that their JQ's walking through this doorway here, then what we want to try to do is find a way to like rotate away from them and possibly end up like over here. So you'll notice like where our Lucio cast is, they feel really, really comfortable, right? Imagine if our Kiriko was here too. Is this Pharah or is this JQ like a threat to us? Probably
No.
not, right?
No.
But if our Kiriko's here,
If
notice
the
how
tank is
easy it is
crossed,
for the Pharah to get onto our Kiri. You see the difference?
Yeah.
So it's
And
something to think about,
that
guys.
made me play out of position there. I play out of position because of that.
Yeah. Pretty good Suzu. We hit most of our people. Now, every single time that you guys are in a fight where you get this first pick, what is the number one thing that we should be looking to do?
Cact and stabilize.
Yeah, stack and stabilize. Really good, really good. Yeah. So what a lot of teams will try to do is they'll get this pick and then they'll be like, hey, let's go get a second one or a third one because we have numbers. But you'll notice that we're not actually stable, right? Half of my Lucio's HP is gone, half of my Sombra's HP is gone, half of my Sigma's HP is gone. And that's not even counting the cooldowns that we probably don't have right now, you know? So when we get into this big scrappy fight, make sure that we can try to stable, get our HP back, make sure nobody gets traded. And if we can do that successfully, then we'll probably win the fight over time. We cap the point, make sure nobody dies, and then we're good. This is a situation where I think our Lucio probably should have died. This is peeking out too wide. I would prefer that our team, especially recognizing that they Kiriko rushed up here, I would like it if our team could just get into spaces like this or get into spaces like this
That's
and
why
just
I
hide.
got there. That's
Yeah,
why I got
exactly.
there.
We just want to hide. We just want to hide, guys. Okay.
And I got pushed after.
Yep. See,
leave.
here's what happens, right? So our tank gets pulse, which is unfortunate. That happens sometimes. And then we lose our hit scan.
I tried to slow down the fucking.
Lose our Lucio. Yeah, so the fight devolves into to a pretty messy fight. Now I think the Tracer hitting a pulse is something that we can't really do anything about. I noticed that we use the Suzu in order to save ourselves from the JQ ult, so we don't have Suzu to save our Sigma. So I think that we can kind of just chalk it up to being, you know, like this Tracer hit a good pulse versus, you know, we did something horribly wrong. It's just a good pulse by their Trey. Okay. See what happens here. All right, so is it Axel? Is it Axel?
Yeah, it's me. I made a big mistake there. When I got there, I was like, oh, I'm gonna push them just to poke to get my
Mhm.
ult. And after that, I said my team told me, oh, dude, you're gonna feed, and I said, nah, probably not. And
Yeah.
I just remember that Queen has an ability called Knife, and I just died.
So this is, I feel like, less about the character and more about like game sense macro type of stuff. Okay, so let's
I would say
think
ego.
about this.
I would say ego. That was
So-
ego I swapped.
When we're thinking about a rotation like this, a position like this, something, and this is a question for everybody in the call. Do you guys think that it is good to play using cover in this game?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah,
Of
absolutely,
course.
right? Yeah, cover is
a
great.
mid-militating shield. It cannot break.
Yeah, there are certain situations in this game where cover or playing next to it can actually have a negative impact on you. I know you might be thinking, like, what exactly are you talking about? Okay,
It's ridiculous.
so for example, if I mean, I'll try to find a good example on this map. I'm not sure if there will be a great one, but for example, let's say that you are playing like here. And let's say that you're taking some sort of fight out of this door. The enemy
That's
team's playing
right.
over here. Enemy team's playing over here. You're shooting, and you're doing a good job using cover. And then suddenly, a tracer comes up behind you that you didn't see. Well, let's ask ourselves a question. How did that tracer get behind us? Why was it so difficult for us to read the tracer going behind us?
'Cause
Well,
you
the
can see
reason
it.
why is because the tracer took a path like this. And because there's so many walls around and so much cover, they were able to make it behind us, and we didn't see them making that rotation. Eyesight and vision and like information in that sense is one of the most important things in this game. Now, let's look at a different example. Let's say that somebody was taking a fight and they were let's pretend that this box wasn't here, okay? And let's say that somebody was like standing here and shooting as a soldier. What flank is good for a tracer onto this soldier?
High ground on the left.
Here?
Yeah.
It'd probably be one of the better ones, right?
And you can
But-
go from inside.
Yeah, but
can
the point I'm
Not a lot
trying
of
to
great
make,
ones.
right? The point I'm trying to make is that this is a lot more open of space, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that this box wasn't here and it was just like a flat surface. If I'm somebody standing here, it's really hard to flank me because no matter where you approach from, I'm going to be able to kind of see you when you're going towards me. So it's easier to respond to because you're expecting it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's not to say that cover is necessarily bad. Cover is great, and cover usage is like a fundamental aspect of this game. But when you're positioning in certain areas, you need to make sure that you have vision and you have information before you commit to areas with cover. So for example, here is a good idea to like take this space, use cover, and like take a nice position. But the problem is that we didn't have vision. We couldn't see through this wall to know that the queen was here. If these walls weren't in the way, if we technically did not have cover, we would be safer in this instance because we would have seen the queen from all the way over here. Okay. So I think a better rotation for us to do, there's two main points here, is number one, a better rotation anyways is probably to go this way because it's wider. You can see more. You guys see this? There's no cover up here. So I have so much more vision. I can fully clear everything and I can go take an angle like this or something, right? The other thing is when you're playing as a DPS character, even if it's a soldier or maybe even like a tracer or something, right? The same rules still apply. It's usually better off for you to kind of like bait your tank before peeking as opposed to peeking first yourself. And the idea behind that is like, even if the JQ wasn't here, I would still say this is too ambitious because we don't have our team with us. But if there's a situation where as a soldier, I'm standing here and I'm waiting, and then my like Sigma or my Ram peeks here and walks forward, and all of these people turn to shoot my Ram, that's when I swing as a soldier, you know, and I get all of this value because no one's looking at me. So like right now, imagine that this is a Ramatra, and as a soldier, we're instead like ready to flank over here. Look at all of their eyes and their heads. They're all turned this way.
Yeah.
You see this? Not a single person on blue team is looking in this direction. So this would be a better off angle, or this would be a better off angle.
My old coach like used to say, use your leg.
He used to say what?
Use your leg.
Use
like
your
to
legs?
run.
Yeah.
Yeah, use your legs to run.
Yeah, it's important. All right. Anybody have any questions so far? Making sense?
No, it's making a lot of sense.
Nice, nice, nice. Good to hear. Okay, we get a big EMP. Nice. I actually like this quite a lot. I think it's still a little bit risky for my Kiriko to TP in here. I also would recommend not rotating through this space. I think it's a lot more advantageous to actually go through here. Again, it's wider. It's open, you know? So I think your team should usually try to retake through here versus going through this space here. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I like the idea behind this EMP. Something that you guys are going to learn as you probably hit like maybe master's level in scrims is Lucio players are going to start to get better. And what these Lucio players are going to do is they're going to predict that you're trying to EMP them, and they're going to like hide themselves or off angle themselves so they can't get hit by the EMP. Or best case scenario, they're the only one who gets EMP'd. So even if they die, their team still has a chance to win the fight. So for something like this, for example, if this was a better Lucio, maybe he'd be sitting back here. Maybe he'd be sitting back here. He's expecting you to EMP. So when Thumper goes in for this, he EMPs everybody. But because their Lucio was hiding behind a corner, he instantly comes out of the corner and beats. And so he's using his beat to counter the EMP. Okay. So it's very, very important that every time we use EMP, try to see if we can grab that Lucio. If you know the Lucio has beat, try to make sure that you hit him with the beat over anybody else. It's like a really, really high priority. Now we get a good EMP and we get a good rock on someone, so we managed to walk in. All of this looks fairly good. I think it could be a little bit cleaner, but I think at this level, this is like pretty ideal. I think you guys did a good job here. We just need to make sure that we close out the fight. Okay, so it's very, very important that right now we're not fighting different targets. And what you'll see here is like Thumper's taking a 1v1 over here. My Lucio's taking a 1v1 over here. So right here, 40% of our team is actually doing something else than what the rest of the team is doing.
What am I doing?
So we want everybody to be here if we can, or everybody to be here, right? Make sure that like when these fights get really chaotic, we're calling the same target. It's super important, guys. So we end up getting traded. Fight's a little bit sloppy. My tank drops, but I don't know if we communicated that. My Kiriko's trying to keep him alive. We lose our Lucio now. We hit a Flux. It's a really good rock. We can probably trade this maybe. Maybe not quite. Nope, we get the trade. Okay. Yeah, so I think the start of this fight was actually pretty okay. I think if we had a wider angle like this, the EMP would have felt better because it wouldn't take us as long to like, you know, peek them and actually be able to damage them. If we're over here, we can shoot them from like really far away. So it's easy for us to like follow up on that EMP. I think off of the EMP, we only got one kill and it was on the Pharah. And I feel like with the EMP, we want to try to get more kills if possible and to kind of like snowball that momentum so they don't manage to stabilize and then win the fight, which I think is exactly what happened here. They managed to find a way to stable. and then they won the fight. Now, I could be wrong. Have we seen yellow team use a beat or a rush yet?
Don't think so.
One on
No,
the bridge.
right?
One on the bridge with the loose.
Because I'm looking right here. It says 0-0.
Yeah, they haven't.
So this is a huge problem. Okay. When it comes to Flashpoint, right? Let's consider that this was like an actual tournament match and an official or something, right? We're 2/3 done with the map. If the enemy team wins the next point, it's GG, it's over, right? It's like first to 3. And so we've gone the majority of the map without using either of our support ultimates, which oftentimes are some of the fastest charging in the game, especially flex support ultimates. So that's definitely a problem. And this to me shows a lack of fight planning. I feel like you guys should be able to figure out, hey, we should use beat for this, or let's like, hey, I've rushed. Can we go here? Can we rush this? Can we do that? You know? So I'm not necessarily expecting the most perfect fight plans, but I do expect you guys to fight plan around your ultimates as much as you can. First and foremost, it should be your support ults, because no matter what comp you play, usually your flex support ult's going to be coming up first. So that's what you want to be using to fight plan around for like 95% of first fights. Something that we can maybe do is looking for something like, okay, if they use JQ ult, then we use beat. I feel like that's pretty reasonable. If they use rush, then we use flux. If they use beat, then we use rush or something, you know? So a way that I like to kind of teach fight planning, even at an advanced level, is this idea of what I call conditional statements. And these are formatted as if blank, then blank. Okay. So like if OC, then beat. Right? If rush, then flux. You guys get the idea? So it's a super easy way to fight plan, but this is actually how the pros fight plan as well. I'm not kidding. So it might seem very elementary, it might seem very, you know, basic, but that's actually how professional players fight plan a lot of the time. Obviously their fight plans are a little bit more advanced than that, but that's a core part of it. It genuinely is. That is something that wouldn't be out of place in like an Overwatch League team's comms. Is like, okay, if they OC, I'm going to use beat. That's a normal comm. So that's something that we can try to use. It's very easy, very simple to implement, and it's effective as well, which is the most important thing. Okay.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
Okay, so when we were scrimming, I called for that at the last fight. I think it's this fight especially. I'm gonna call for the beat and the kitty. I hate doing that to my teammate, like saying, "Oh, we need to use beat," because it's pressuring them to play their character. But I called for that. My tank usually is the tank that fight plan, but I feel like I was the one fight planning this scrim at the end. And you're gonna see at the end. I was in another team that was around Diamond before this one, but it was pretty toxic, so I left. And we run the Queen Tracer Sombra comp with Lucio Bap.
Lucio Bap?
Yeah, Lucio Bap.
Okay, interesting.
Bap is because Bap is just because of a comfort pick. My ADeem, I think, MD, I guess. He's not very good. He said he's not very comfortable on Kitty, so I swapped for a character that could fit the team, but not exactly. Yeah. So this fight, I was playing Ash, and I said, okay, maybe we should make some swap in, even though we have beat. That was a bad call on my hand, but I would say that for the player's perspective, for me, switching to a Mercy to pocket Ash was like the right choice.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So on paper, if we're talking like optimal Overwatch, Mercy's very rarely the right choice. Just because of the way that the character kind of slots into the meta. Now, there are actually times when playing Mercy's not bad, possibly even really good. But those are going to be very niche circumstances. I think 99% of the time, you're really fine not running a Mercy. I think Ashe by herself already gets enough value. I think she's a character that's fine by herself. what I would say is that a character like Sigma is typically paired with a BAP, because it makes a little bit more sense in terms of how the characters want to play. Sigma is not really a fast, aggressive character, and Kiriko is the kind of character who promotes that play style. Kiriko likes to play in comps that don't stack too much. She likes more angles and mobility. And one of the big reasons why is because she doesn't have that like splash AoE healing like a Baptiste does. So when you're playing a character like Bap, he can just right click and heal like a bunch of people. So it makes sense to run him in a comp that kind of sticks together, you know? Versus a Kiriko, you're going to see her comps are more like this, where she has like single target heals on specific people. And so she wants to play a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more angly, stuff like that, you know? I would say, honestly, don't worry too much about swaps at this level. I think like as a coach, what I can try to do is give you guys compositions to run as like a default setup to like start with on certain maps. And then you guys can just practice them over time. But I'd say for the most part, don't really worry too much about making the correct swaps and stuff like that. It's not of any offense to you guys, but when it comes to optimal swap theory, that is way too advanced for this level. It's not really going to get any value. It's not going to be understood. It's something that is really, really, really advanced. It's something that I personally struggle with every day. It's something that Christopher struggles with every day. A lot of what we talk about on our professional team is stuff like swap theory. So it's something that is not really relevant at this level. But maybe later on in your guys's, you know, Overwatch future, you can get there, you know. But for right now, I think like the comp that we're playing is pretty okay. Something I would say about us using beat here is this is kind of an interesting way to use this. Is this what you meant, Axel, by like you were calling that we need the beat or something?
Yeah, because I saw
Okay.
the tank not okay. So look at my tank positioning. I'm actually a old top 100 player in Overwatch 1. When I saw my tank doing this, I said he's gonna die. In my head, when he moved there, he was about to die. So I said beat, 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 and I just saved his life.
That's not what happened. I remember I called for beat.
No, I did.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay, I don't know, 100% sure, but like that's what I remember.
Regardless of who called for beat, I think it's a bad beat. To be fair.
Yeah.
This is not a good beat. And the main reason why is because there isn't a reason to beat. Right? So if the argument is that we needed to beat to save our tank, my argument would be we shouldn't be in a position where I'm that low HP to begin with, you know? So if I'm a character like Sigma, I don't really have the ability to walk forward like this, right? The reason why is because I'm walking into what I would call a crossfire. So for example, there's this corner right here. There's a JQ standing on that corner, and she's looking this way at my Sigma, okay? So what we can do is we can draw an arrow that looks like this. And if we take the people in the back line, which is the Pharah and which is the Kiriko, they're healing and they're shooting in this direction. So what ends up happening is if we step forward into this space, we're going to be fighting against the JQ, right? While also fighting against this angle as well. And this is taking damage from two sources, which is way too much for us to take. And what we want to try to do as players is no matter if we're a tank or we're a Lucio or we're like any other role, is you want to isolate angles. You want to use cover to minimize the amount of damage that you're taking. So a really easy way to illustrate this is to do this, right? If you look at my camera, right now I'm peeking 0 people on blue team, 0 players on blue team who can see me. If I peek a little bit more, there's now 1 person. If I peek a little bit more, there's now 2 people. Peek a little bit more, there's 3 people. If I go, I guess, this far. Okay. So there's this idea that like, if we end up using a corner and using cover properly, we are the ones who have control over how much damage we take. And that's super important, right? Because maybe when I'm a Ramatra and I don't have my Nemesis form, I want to play a little bit slower. I want to shield myself on this corner. I want to get a little bit of poke damage. I want to play a little bit passive, right? So I want to play defensive. I don't want to take a lot of damage. But then when I have my Nemesis form, maybe that's when I call 3-2-1 speed amp and we go in super aggressive, right? And so even though I'm peeking a lot of people, I'm doing so because I chose to do so. You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So when we walk forward like this, I don't actually think it's the beat that is like necessary. I think what's necessary is for my Sigma to not walk forward like this, because what you'll notice is not only are we like ego walking into a queen, but we're going to walk into the Pharah and we're going to walk into the Kiriko and we're going to walk into the Tracer. Okay. So what we would like to do is maybe hold this corner and poke here, or like jiggle peek this corner and poke here. Sigma's really, really good at jiggle peeking because he's not like a Ramatra or a Malga who has to keep constantly shooting for value. He shoots twice and then pauses, shoots twice, pauses, shoots twice, pauses. So you can keep jiggling to maximize your safety. Okay.
I have a
Um,
question.
Yep.
So yeah, if Sigma, that's my personal question, but if Sigma shield Kitty from Queen, right?
Yeah.
Is she going to not take the heal, or is she going to take heal there?
It's blocked.
If you shield
Or
off the Kiriko paper.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If you shield off the Kiriko paper, it'll get blocked by the shield.
Okay, so if I'm in this position with Sigma, I can shield their Kiriko and poke their Queen, right?
Yeah, you can, but I still think walking forward is not an optimal play. I think if you wanted to try something like that, you would still want to do it kind of from back here. You
Nope.
wouldn't actually want to go towards the queen.
Yeah. No, my question was not that. Like I said, it was personal because yeah, if I poke her and I block the healing, I'm gonna force Kiri to go in, right?
No, you probably wouldn't force Kiri to go in. You'd force the queen to go out, or you'd force the queen to step over to here. Because, like, let's say that you shielded like this or something, the queen could just walk to here, and then the Kiriko could step more towards the bottom of my screen, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's like if there's a
because-
Kiri right here getting shielded, you know, then she could like maybe step this way or like come step this way or something.
okay.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, not a
But
bad
is it
idea.
Good, but is it good to force people to move out?
Yeah, sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can be. I think Sigma shield management in particular is kind of difficult to explain because sometimes it's worthwhile as a Sigma to literally just tap your shield and put it directly in front of you. Sometimes as a Sigma, you want to put it like behind the enemy tank to block heals. Sometimes you want to put it just to control an off angle or something, right? So I think it's something that kind of goes based off of feel. I don't think there's like a great answer as to like how to always use Sigma shield, you know? I think it has a time and a place based on context. But yeah, so we get our beat forced out here because our Sigma takes infinite damage. The problem with this is that all they have to do really is wait our beat out, and that's it. As long as like you guys don't get a kill with this beat, blue team should be really happy. So let's see if we get a kill with this, because what should
I think
probably
they
happen is once
KO.
our beats ran out, they can like cycle to maybe a Kiriko ult. They could use like a JQ ult or something of that nature. Here comes the JQ ult, exactly. And you'll notice that our tank is dead anyways. You guys kind of see what I mean? So blue team did a pretty good job of waiting a decent amount of time for the beat to like run out a little bit. They maybe could have waited a little bit longer. But if you look at your tank, you'll notice, does your tank have any overhealth anymore?
Nope.
Nope. He has no overhealth
No
left.
shield too.
So even though we used the beat to save our tank, it actually didn't end up mattering at all. Because he just got shot and then he just got queen ulted anyways. This is when we would prefer to beat. We would prefer to force the queen ult first, and then we have beat to survive the queen ult, versus getting our beat forced out, and then the queen ult goes in second. So even though it's the exact same ultimates being used, right? It's a JQ ult or a beat, the order in which it's used really, really matters. So we want this to be number one and this to be number two as a response. What ended up
The
happening
layer.
was this was number one and this was number two. So we lost the fight. Make sense to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're trying to clutch it out with our Kiriko Rush. I don't think that's going to work probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I called for that. Like I said, I was bad on myself.
It's okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna switch to Mercy here.
Right. Yeah, this is also probably gonna feel worse for us. Actually, I think these swaps are gonna make it worse. I think the JQ comp actually kind of counters this in a way. Not necessarily the Pharah, but I think the JQ should feel pretty good in this matchup to just like walk on people and attack people. If they play it right.
After, like I said, we're gonna stop in spawn, and I'm going to like ask for a comp switch. Think after this. Yeah, there we go. So we're doing this comp.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this comp. I think the BAP does not really work with it. BAP is too vulnerable of a character and too slow of a character. You really want a Kiriko. Kiriko also has the added benefit in the Queen Mirror of being able to cleanse the Tracer Pulse or cleanse the Queen ult, which is very, very valuable to have as a character to cleanse anti.
Yeah, I would say it's very viable for a tank, but for a DPS, I can just recall, or Sombra can just TP out and we're cleansed.
What's viable for a tank?
Like the fact that Queen can just go in for Queen ult, especially this comp. If my Queen get ult, she's dead. But for especially for Sombra and Tracer, if we get Queen ulted, it's not a big problem. We can just get out.
Yeah, sometimes. I think if anyone's gonna get queen ulted, it's probably your BAP actually.
Yeah.
Your BAP's probably dead if they get queen ulted. Immortality is not gonna save that. Which is why I would recommend running a Kiriko, not actually for that reason, but that's just one of the like pretty decent reasons why you would run a Kiri. But also the character just matches these characters a lot better. Queen wants to play for angles and wants to play for like mobility and speed. This character is not really good with like mobility, speed, and angles. That's
No,
definitely
you
more
want
up
to poke a
Kiriko's
lot
alley.
more.
Yeah, here we get a little bit split. It looks like we didn't have great communication on where we were setting up, guys. Sort of looks like our tank overextends a bit. Is this the next objective here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, if this is the next objective, then I think it's really reasonable for us to take the long way around because it's a lot safer, and then we can try to take this room and like hold this choke. A lot of times on Flashpoint, what you want to try to do is make it to the objective first and then set up on really good angles to make their entry difficult. So the first person to get to the point is usually the one that's going to be able to like defend it and get objective control first, which is a really, really good thing. But if we try to take this kind of path where we go across their face, that's when it's super easy to die. So that's kind of what happens here. I actually think this is not a good rush. I don't think they
Yeah,
should've
don't
rushed
worry.
it.
I know.
But you know, like it ended up in them getting a kill. They ended up using their far ult. We're probably gonna lose this fight. Yeah.
And
So it
I'm
looks a little
probably
bit
gonna
rough
die
from us.
here, right? I'm probably gonna die here. No, I'm not dead. What the fuck?
What's up?
I don't know. I thought I was dead there. Yeah, I was. Wait, was that a good thing to pressure their Tracer here? We were 2 on him.
What's up?
So there, me and Thumper caught the Tracer out. Like, look at the beginning of the fight. So Tracer, the enemy Tracer is here. So I'm gonna chase her because I want to force her recall and I want to force mine too. So we chased her.
Yeah, it seems fine to me. Seems fine to me. Okay. So something that I would like to see is some sort of synergy between like the ultimates that we have. So in a perfect world, what we could do is try to like use this, and this as a means to force something out. So
Yeah.
does anybody know what cooldowns or what ultimates or what abilities blue team has that would counter an EMP, a pulse bomb, or a queen ult?
I would say
B.
that what counter
Okay, beats one. Sure.
Suzu.
Suzu's another. Yeah.
Rush is the Queen Rush is a little bit sus, but I would say Queen Shout.
Queen Shout you could try, but I don't think it'd be sufficient enough to stop one of these if it hits really, really well. So
For-
I would say like Beat and Suzu are the two main ones. So what we would like to try to do in theory, keep in mind, this isn't going to work every time, but if
Okay.
possible, what we would love to do is to have a situation where I can use like one of these to enable one of these to pop off. So an example of this could be, okay, maybe I use my pulse bomb as a tracer to force out the Suzu, and then that leads up to me hitting a big EMP on their Lucio, and we one-shot him for the kill because they can't cleanse it. It could be a different example as well. It could be, let's try to pulse bomb the Kiri to force her Suzu, and when she uses her Suzu, we go in for our Queen ult because there's no cleanse for it anymore, right? Stuff like that. So I'm not the biggest fan of the way that we started this fight because it's so resource heavy for us. If we count the players at the top left and top right of the screen, who has more players alive right now?
Us,
Team
the
2.
yellow team.
Yeah, yellow team. So if we have more resources, keep in mind, remember we talked about like after you get a kill, make sure to stable and stuff like that. we're very stable. This kill was basically in the neutral. There hasn't been any CDs that we've used that are important. Our HP is completely fine. So we're actually already stable. Now we can look to push our numbers advantage. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, how did we end up in a fight where we are up a player and yet we managed to use window, shout, and EMP all in the same fight to win something? Do you guys kind of see the problem?
Yeah, that
Like,
was
this is
crazy.
too many resources. It's too many, and we shouldn't really need them. I think if we just push in and we like use the numbers advantage that we have, we get a hack on their queen, something of that nature, then we're probably fine. I think using the window here is probably okay. I don't actually mind using the window at all. But I think EMP is way too important of an ultimate to use in a fight where we already have an advantage
Well-
and we already have a window up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so your point is to play slow when we get a kill to re-engage, right?
No, my point is that because we were already stable, we don't have to play that slow. We can play at like a normal speed, and we can like force our numbers advantage. So I think being aggressive here is good. I think the window is completely fine. This window should give us the point flip. It should give us like maybe a kill as well if we're lucky enough. But I don't think the EMP was necessary, and I also think Thumper to go for an EMP like this when we're low HP and use our translocator to reach the enemy is very, very scary. You would rather have your HP be full and to have your translocator available and approach from like an angle like this or something, or to maybe like translocate on top of this so that you can EMP and then drop down afterwards. You want to have a little bit more peel. As you get to higher and higher elos, they'll start to kill the Sombra immediately after she EMPs. So it's important to have your translocator ready.
I think
You're a robot thumper.
Oh, you're a robot thumper.
Lagging a bit, yeah.
Is it the fight that I killed like 4?
I am not sure.
Trying to force a off angle here.
All right.
Like,
So now we take some nice defensive positions. So something that's like a very, very small micro thing for like our flex support and for our tank is this idea of not stacking on the same side of a choke. So for example, somewhere like this, right? Because there's like this thing in the way, it's a little bit awkward for our flex support to play here, and it feels like we're very open. The reason why is because anytime there's a choke like this, what's typically going to happen is somebody's going to be standing on one corner of the choke. There's going to be an enemy player who swings wide on the other side of the choke. So what that means is that it's not very common for like the enemy JQ to like walk super close to the corner and swing this way. Usually they're going to swing kind of like this. What that means is that the wider they swing like this opposite the your tank's corner, the easier they can see your flex support. So I would probably recommend maybe playing an angle more like this, or playing an angle that's more like this. Feels a lot safer, because if their spawn is over here, then they're probably going to come back through this doorway. If they're coming back through this doorway, then having your tank play here and your flex support play here probably feels a lot better than to have your tank here and your flex support over here. So that slight little repositioning can actually help a lot in terms of like taking damage, because here we're very, very vulnerable. We're in the open. But if we play here, their backline can't see us. It's only the JQ who's a threat, and their JQ's focused on our JQ anyways. Okay. This seems fine. Again, Thumper, be very, very careful about using your translocator. Try to not use it if you can, unless it's like really, really safe, or unless you absolutely need it.
was that a good flank with Tracer there? I found that a little bit sus. Like,
What flank are we talking about?
I go behind them a little bit earlier.
Okay. Probably a little bit too dangerous, I would say. I'd say you're probably better off just waiting to catch them when they walk in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to always create an off angle with my Tracer.
Yeah, you don't always have to create an off angle. I think a good way of saying it is like when you're a Tracer defending space, a lot of times you want to kind of catch the enemy team as they rotate. When
Like
you're the
I
team
did with
that's
our
when you're the team that's rotating, you want to try to go for like those flanks so you can not necessarily catch people, but pinch people as your team is walking in would be my advice.
So going on the Tracer there was or Lucio and Tracer was actually the right player, right? When I come back to my team, I instantly go on them because they were engaging my backline.
What are we talking about?
Here, look at this. I saw their Tracer because I was looking. I saw their Tracer going for that, and I instantly contest her.
Yeah, I would say marking their trade lose a good play. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's probably pretty solid.
Yeah, it's the fight that I'm gonna kill 4 there. I'm gonna kill 4 players. We won the 4.
Doomfist now is an interesting swap. Okay.
I just wanted to jump the map. I think I just
That's-
lost my head at this point. I don't know.
That's pretty fair. I don't
tweaking
blame
out.
you for that. Don't blame you for that. Interesting. So we end up going for Only thing about playing Doom into this comp is it's probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable with the Sombra for sure.
Yeah.
And the
I
Junker
typically
Queen.
recommend into Sombra to run like a Winston. I think Winston's really good into Sombra.
Yeah,
But
Grand
I think
Tracer.
like Ram's also fairly good.
Yeah, it's for Ram.
I'm gonna write
RIP?
that down.
What'd you say?
I want to write that down. I'm gonna show it to Salt every time he swaps Doom.
Every time.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I prefer Winston as a tank over Doom, just because Doom is very mechanically reliant and can kind of be like wishy-washy sometimes.
I
Like
feel like I punched
sometimes you'll hit the
people.
punch on Doom, you know, and then
Yeah.
sometimes you'll whiff a punch and it costs you the entire game. So it's like I think Winston's just a lot more consistent, and the more time you invest into Winston, the more you kind of get dividends off of that investment. I think Winston's a character that's always strong, is probably always going to be strong. He's
And his
been
ult is
one of the
way
best tanks
better.
in the game since the game was created. That's probably not going to change. His utility as a character is really, really good. His skill ceiling is very, very high, so you'll never be able to play him perfectly, but you can certainly try. So yeah, I think Winston's a great choice.
Doom to Salt is like Diva to Emong. Alright, we lost the fight there. I'm going Doomfist.
That's so
I'm
true.
going Doomfist, yeah. I think that's actually a lot of Doom players, to be fair. I think a lot of people are like that, yeah.
Dude, in
I
Plasma-
swear I punched straight through
Yeah,
him,
dude.
On my
Dude.
screen, I literally went right at him, and it just was like.
I would have
no.
won this game if my Doomfist is better. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my
Alright, so
god! I would
that's-
say I jinxed you so hard. You fell
It's
off.
not even fair, dude. On my screen, I'm like, oh, he's right there, and then I just go
Be
through.
Well, my
fair.
window scared him. That's what it was.
That's
To be
definitely
fair, that's super level play, so that's pretty good.
Look
I-
at
I
look
think
at you falling. I look
in
at you
this
falling.
situation, we're very, very focused on what's happening over here. I don't necessarily know if we want a window in this kind of space because on my screen, I don't really see a lot from this window, right? So maybe
Yeah.
I would rather window like maybe over here, in a slightly different position, or maybe like more like this. Once the enemy team is committed a little bit more into this space, I think this is a little bit of like a premature window. When it comes
It
to
was.
the tracer over here, right? I think it's very, very important that like we're marking the tray and that we're marking the point touch. I think the blue team's composition, our team is also fairly mobile, but not quite as mobile because we have a JQ and a Baptiste. But the blue team's composition is like insanely mobile. So they're going to be able to move around a lot, and it's very reasonable that one of them is going to be able to touch the objective. So I think that's something we want to try to mark if we can. Obviously, unfortunate that Doom dies here in a little bit of a silly way, but it happens. They end up using beat. Bit of a questionable beat. Maybe could have used it a bit sooner to like start a fight, but it happens. Okay, does anybody have any questions so far?
No.
We're chilling. Okay. Do we have another code that you guys want to look at? I probably have a little bit more time.
We're
Do one from
maybe able to
tonight.
do tonight, yeah. Any of the middle 4.
Yeah, don't
See.
do.
Any
Don't,
of the
Not
middle
Lee
4
Shang
from
and not
tonight?
Kings.
do not look Kings. Yeah, that one was rough.
If Kings was rough, doesn't that make it good to look at?
it
Or
was
No,
rough.
No,
it was like
it was-
troll. It was
we're not
troll.
really-
row.
okay.
It was the
Okay,
last
gotcha.
one. It was,
Locked
it's
in
it's
second
King's
round.
Row Mirror.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Not
which one
playing
would be
super
best to look
seriously.
at then? Do you think?
Probably maybe. What's
Servasa
the,
maybe, because we actually did lose 2
Servasa-
points, right?
Eichenwald, Servasa.
what's the messy stuff in Servasa?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, Servasa.
I would say that right now I have everything I need to work on as a team member.
Okay.
I mean, you guys are just starting. To be fair, you guys are still just getting used to each
Yeah.
other.
That's why I just don't want to pressure too much myself to learn with my team.
Yeah.
I know what we know what we need to work on now.
Interesting
need to
comp.
work.
Okay.
Work.
Sleeper's
A
not
lot
the
of
like,
talking.
the Sleeper's a ringer. He's not the most like flexible player, but
I see. I
we
see.
gotta work
Yeah.
with him. Yeah.
Where does this idea for the venture comp come in?
We actually play this pretty commonly on Sarvasa, to be fair. I don't know. Akio, who normally plays
Interesting.
it, just likes it.
Yeah, I think venture is pretty awful unless you play it in like the fastest comp known to man. So what I would recommend is instead of playing venture here,
I
you'd
think normally we
probably
do
be
actually
better off
play
going
Venture Tracer.
like venture tracer with like a Mauga would be my recommendation.
Oh yeah, it is
over
fast.
Oh,
over
we're doing that.
JQ.
Ooh, we're doing that next
That'd be
time.
fun.
Yeah.
I would like that. Is an interesting comment.
Next time
Love to-
Aki's here, we can.
I also think that a comp like that leans really, really well into what Venture's like good at doing. But Venture is a character where they kind of struggle in open space. They're a lot better in situations where it's close range and brawly and you can reach the enemy team very safely, very easily. I feel like a point like this doesn't really lend itself to Venture too much. I feel like you guys would probably be better off playing characters that have a bit of range advantage, maybe like a Soj comp, rather than playing like a Venture comp. So I think maybe Venture's a character that you save for like an Antarctic Peninsula or something like that. But
yeah,
I think
that's
for
true.
Saravasa, it's a little bit too open, and you can play with like range and mobility a little bit too easily for the Venture to really close the gap on you in most situations. Okay, so be a little bit cautious about playing Venture here. Okay, this is a really weird first fight. All right. Number one thing, first of all, is we are turbo split with our Venture here. We are so wide. I definitely think we should be here as a team. I think all 5 people can walk through this doorway and feel pretty happy about it. Does anybody know what the correct play is if yellow team, or the enemy team, I guess in this case, decides to rotate outside through the door this way?
You just hold them at door
You hold the door,
Possibly
or meet them at like
in this
a little
specific
outside.
meet
situation.
them at the door. Okay.
Get the high
Any other
ground,
ideas?
get the
No.
angles.
Well, yeah, we
Get
think
the
it's-
angles. Okay, what does that mean?
you
Well, I mean,
just
like
shoot
it's a
through-
door, and I should have been up top. You know?
Yeah. I
What
should
was that?
Up on the little rafters there. Get them up there.
Like over here or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, could be good. Could be good.
You
Anything
can-
else?
To hold the angle on the door on one of the sides.
I'm not.
I
Mhm.
just saw the
Like,
Sojourn and I really just wanted her. I shouldn't have done that.
So where do you guys think our queen should be standing?
On the door frame.
Okay, so like, does it matter which corner? Not too much, right?
They're.
Let's say probably
Well,
their
I
side
mean-
though, probably the left one.
Could try. Yeah. Now here's my question to you: what if the enemy team sends their hit scan here to shoot out my queen?
Don't have to go.
Then
the
we
side.
back up.
Is
Generally,
this
we might
easy?
want to
Is
back
this
up.
easy for us to
Yes.
mark?
Not really.
Not really. It's pretty difficult to mark that, right? So what's my JQ gonna have to end up doing anyways?
Backing
point
up
or
to the
back up.
to the
Probably
side.
backing up and giving space, yeah. So what I actually want to see from us is
All the way
when
back.
we notice that yellow team is out here, it's less about holding this door and more about setting our team up for objective control in a nice stable way and getting our backline to a really safe distance. So if I'm thinking about my backline, let's say like my Soj and my Kiri in this case, maybe a Soj BAP or a Cass BAP, something like that. Where do you guys think I would want my backline to be
All the way on the
if yellow
stairs.
team's all the way over here?
Opposite mirror of them on
Back-
the
yeah, the back
Yeah,
stairs.
like
there,
over here, right?
at like whatever it's called.
Yeah. So the benefit of this is like, yeah, it's kind of a straight line. It's kind of a fair fight. But
But
what I really like about this is like, maybe we have flankers that are able to catch this. More commonly, it's going to be on the right side than the left side. It's a little bit too deep in their space. But somewhere like this, we could set up like a tracer. So as they walk in, my tracer can collapse on their backline and then we can sort of like, you know, approach them like this. But the really nice thing about having my BAP or my Cass or my Kiri or my Soj somewhere over here is that they're really, really, really difficult for these characters to reach. So the JQ is going to struggle to reach them. The Genji is going to struggle to reach them. The more space we have, the better. That's number one. And then number two, we start with objective control, which is great. So what that means is that these guys have the responsibility to walk through this door and do something when the point unlocks. If they don't, then what's going to happen is we're going to cap. And then instead of us playing super aggressive, if they decide to push in, we can kind of just slowly back up and absorb it. We don't actually really need to kill them or do anything crazy. We just want to play to like be stable and absorb whatever they do. Because if the fight goes on for a long time, we're just ticking up in percentage and like over and over and over, right? Okay, was that our shout?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So this looks to me like a typical queen shout used at this level. Which also reminds me of a typical Winston bubble used at this level. Do you guys know when Winston's typically bubble at like plat elo?
On top of them.
Every time they jump.
Oh yeah.
Am I jumping someone? I'm bubbling. That's not actually the most optimal way to use the bubble. There's actually a right time and a right place to use the bubble. That's the exact same thing with the queen shout. So the reason why this shout, in my opinion, is not that great is because queen shout isn't really used in this manner. Why?
Defensive.
Because we're already on top of them. We already can get the kills and we don't need the stability because we're not actually in a lot of danger. Okay. The main person who's in danger is this Soj. All right. So either the Sojourner is going to die or the Soj is going to try to slide out. And then we want the shout to go chase her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is a situation where, in my mind, the way that you should try to learn to play Queen at a very basic sense is this idea that you use speed amp from your Lucio to close the gap. For example, like over here, you'd hopefully have your Lucio kind of amping you this way. And then when this character tries to run away from you, right? That's when you use shout to sustain yourself and chase them. Okay. So it's like you amp to reach the target and then you shout when you reach them to sustain yourself while you attack the target, right? So it will kind of look like this, except in more of a space like this, where more of your teammates are with you, more of your teammates are getting shout value, and you're deeper into the enemy team. Here, it's pretty reasonable that this Soj is going to live, whether it's based off of a Suzu
Also-
or using a slide. This is when we would really want the shout. So our whole team can get it and we can fight them when they walk through here. What ends up happening is we overextend around this corner, we use our shout, the Soj slides away and gets stabilized by their shout, and now it looks a little bit worse for blue team, doesn't it? It looks almost like yellow team now has the advantage, even though we were the ones who started with space. So this is kind of like how quickly Overwatch can swing, right? You'll notice here, like our JQ is really, really, really low, and our Kiriko's actually somehow ended up in the middle of point. I'm not sure how that happened.
It's bad.
Yeah, so this is kind of the danger of playing somewhere like this is we're way too exposed. I'd much rather be a Kiriko
Yeah.
over here, or at the very least somewhere over here. I think would be a lot better. And there's also an argument that our tank shouldn't have gone through this space anyways, unless it was like very, very minimally. Like going here, slightly peeking around the corner to hit a big axe. Then the second the Soj starts sliding past, we're already backpedaling. But that's like kind of like high elo tank player type reaction time. Yeah, I think here our pathing as Kiri is a little bit incorrect. We're walking into the fight. I really think we want to kind of keep stepping back as we're trying to heal this, as
I
we're
thought
trying
Genji
to look
was
for a
gonna
Suzu.
chase me. I thought because he had
What's up?
dashed through me. Because Genji had dashed through me, so I thought he was
Mm-hmm.
gonna chase me. So I wanted to like rotate behind the queen, so he couldn't get on me as easily.
Yeah,
backed up
I
as well.
don't.
I didn't
I don't
notice
think
that.
that's a bad idea. The only problem with that, right? Because I like the instincts. I think that's like a good natural instinct to have. The problem is after the Genji's dashed you, right? He doesn't have his like movement CD again. So if we're afraid of him using his shurikens and stuff like that, I think that's fair. But I also think that if the Genji dashes into this space, he's now really deep, which means he's probably going to do what?
Feed.
Yeah, back up, and that makes more sense. Now.
Not only use not
Back
only
up,
back up, but
deflect.
use deflect. And if he's using deflect, he's not damaging you. You know what I mean?
Mhm, yeah, I see that.
So
here.
the deeper he engages onto you into your space, the more like at threat he actually is. But the other thing is, I think this is probably the more important reason, is sometimes our fear of what's initially a threat to us can lead us into a second threat. So like here, I think it's really reasonable. Like, hey, there's a Genji. I want to avoid him. If I'm a support player, I don't want to get like shurikened in the face, right? But if you're so paranoid about the Genji that it makes you rotate to here, you're just going to die to the Soj or die to the Queen or die to the Lucio or, you know, die to any of these other characters. So it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. I feel like in theory, what you should try to do is back as far into your team's space as you possibly can, because just the presence of a Sojourn is going to help you. Walking on this line where your Lucio is going to let him boop the Genji if he tries to keep following you. Maybe your Queen's able to turn around and peel you. You know what I mean? So as just a general kind of like natural instinct, try to walk into your space as much as you can. If you commit too heavily into their space, you might end up dying anyways, right? Okay. All right, pretty scrappy fight. A lot of trades on both sides. We end up being on the losing end, unfortunately. Now let's see how we retake this. Okay. I think this angle's pretty bad for Venture. I don't think we need to off-angle our Venture alone. I think they should 100% be stacked with the team. And looking for some kind of like burrow, like jump up to here, boot people off, or like burrow on the queen, big 3-2-1 timing, go in aggressively. I think we need to play a little bit more stacked here for sure. Now we're stacked. We're going in with our burrow. We end up burrowing in our space, yeah. So now we have to wait out the slow from the Soj. We end up getting our Suzu force. That's definitely not good. And now we're dead. Yeah. So I think what is happening here is like a classic example of something that a lot of teams kind of run into the trap to. So I'm actually going to give you guys a little tip. It's like a little cheat code, okay, for getting better retake fights. All right. So I want you guys to think about the space that yellow team owns versus the space that blue team owns. So let's get back a little bit, okay? So here's the context. Let's kind of set the scene, right? So blue team has just lost a fight. They're going to be coming back from spawn. Yellow team is the one who won the fight. So when yellow team wins the fight, what do they gain as a result of that win?
Setup time and point progress.
They get the objective, right? They get objective. And they
Map
also get
control.
space. Yeah, insane map control. It's a really good term. Nice. So they get a shit ton of map control, right? So what that means is the way that I view this is kind of like this, right? Now, what I usually tell teams is that this is a 70-30. The team that's defending has a 70% chance to win. The team that's attacking has a 30% chance to win. Not necessarily, I guess maybe a win percentage is a little bit dicey for me to say. A better term would be like an advantage, like a 70-30 advantage. The reason why that's the case is because the defending team has infinitely more space and therefore more angles than the team that's trying to walk in. And they're the ones who can kind of sit still and do nothing. It's the attacking team's job to actually do something, right? If the attacking team does nothing and the defending team does nothing, the defending team is going to win and the attacking team is going to lose because they're the ones who have the objective. So these guys are the ones who have the responsibility to make that initial play, right? Now, if we think about this, blue team's coming back. This is something that will happen a lot in Overwatch. You can attribute this to basically, I would honestly say 100% of the retakes that you guys have ever fought. Any time that you have played Overwatch and your team won a fight and was like absorbing a retake, or on the flip side, you lost a fight and were coming back, this principle has applied. And it's the principle of the straight line, okay? So you'll notice I can draw a straight line in between the two teams. This is something that's very, very, very common, right? As you get to higher and higher elos, maybe people break this rule. Maybe people are like going on flanks and getting setups and stuff, which is pretty good for the team that's attacking. But for right now, can we agree that like everything to the left of this green line belongs to yellow and everything to the right side belongs to blue? Would you guys agree?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So with that in mind, let's look at this map like this. If we draw this line, is it reasonable to assume that blue team is eventually going to have to cross this line?
Yeah.
Obvious.
Okay. So with that in mind, where can they cross? What are the common areas that a team is going to cross that line? Well,
cross
it
from
could
the
be
back
The
there.
doorways.
could be like this choke, right? It could be walking through here. It could be walking through here. It could be walking through even here, right? So there's a lot of different ways that we can entry as the team that's retaking. Now, the question is, right? What is the best way to entry?
The back.
And
right
that's a
one.
very
Probably the
difficult
back.
question to
Their
answer.
comp.
What's up?
Let's say the back right one, like so we can walk our
Back.
surge to the lane here.
Here?
And also
Yeah.
their specific comp wants to be closer to us than we do.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Is when you're the team that's going to be defending, a lot of times it's actually really hard to answer that question unless you have context. And context means information. If you don't have information, there's no way you should be able to answer where do we retake from or where do we hold as the defending team. The reason why is because let's say, for example, that like defending team was holding over here, right? You can't tell me that the correct answer for the attacking team is to go into this space because you don't have information on where they are. But then all of a sudden, if you've scouted that they're standing here, maybe going the opposite way is the best option. You know what I mean? So this is a really good example here, right? If we were to scout them first, then it'd actually be really good if maybe all 5 of us even went over here.
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't even need to just be our Soj. I think sending our Soj by herself might be okay as well. But then I would be really, really worried about one of two things. In a higher elo lobby, the Genji Lucio is going to run down your Soj Lucio. And Genji Lucio should win this 10 out of 10 times. If they don't, they've done something wrong. Okay? So Genji Lucio should always be able to beat the Soj Lucio in that 2v2 duel, or even the 1v1 duel. The other thing that might happen is as your Soj Lucio is taking this really, really long rotation, it takes a lot of time to do this. Let's say it's like 7 to 8 seconds. During that time, they can just invest their Genji Lucio into going here and forcing a 5v3. And your Soj Lucio is too far away to help with that fight. Do you guys see the danger?
Oh yeah.
So you're either going to get matched, or they're just going to ignore you and say, hey, Soj Lucio's out of the fight. Let's go, 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 go. Go to their spawn. Go to their spawn. They're going to kill your whole team right about here, you know? So something that we can do instead is maybe we take our entire team and we rotate around here.
Oh yeah.
And the reason why we should be able to do this is not necessarily because in this context it like is the best, you know, on paper play, but it's to make a point. It's to teach you guys a concept, okay? So the concept is what I personally call, it's like my own original term. I call it opening the door, okay? So right now we have a door that's like closed in our face. We have this straight line and we're trying to figure out a way to bust down that door. But if we can find a way to turn this door, to open it, right? Then the map feels a lot easier. So right now on Suravasa first point, this is a symmetrical first point, right? This side and this side are exactly the same, okay? But then if we turn the point to look like this and we approach the fight like this, it suddenly feels a lot different. So let me ask you guys this question, okay? Which side would you rather be, the left side or the right side in this scenario?
Yeah, left.
The left side.
Why left side?
Way more space.
The
Yeah,
chokes
more
are
space.
really tight.
You're holding like specific chokes, right? You have better angles, okay? Now, let me turn myself 90 degrees and I'll ask you the same question, okay? So let's say that there's teams fighting like this. Would you rather be left side or right side?
Probably right side in this.
Why?
It's hard. Genji, it's hard for Genji to get on us to a degree, and covers a little bit better over there.
Is it?
Well, sort of.
Not really.
Back.
You
I
realize that
mean,
it's hard to give a good
that's
answer?
out of the fight.
There's a hell
It's hard to give a good answer, isn't it, though? Like, it's
Yeah.
genuinely difficult, is it not?
'Cause
Like, it's
it's
hard to say, well,
An
is
argument
this
for both
actually better
sides.
than like standing here? Like, I can't really tell, because like here you have a really nice corner,
Here you have
but
the-
here you have more distance from point. But then like here you have better ability to touch the point really easily, versus over here, what are you going to do, stand here? Like, you'd have to stand farther away, but then distance equals safety. And so there's a lot of different factors to weigh. And the point that I'm making is that you guys were able to answer this question immediately, but when it comes to this, it's a little bit harder to say which side is actually better. Okay?
As-
So the reason why
both.
this is such an important concept is because on the attacking side, a lot of times teams will force themselves into the easy answer. They'll force themselves into the thing that they already know is weak. However, if we manage to reach this space, even if they know that we're going there, if the fight becomes something where I just draw a line like this, and this is like yellow team or whatever, and then this is our blue team on retake, if I can't, like, if you guys aren't able to give me a really good reason why this position is worse than this position, then we've broken the 70-30.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
It's 50-50. So before the fight has even started, we've already won. Not necessarily the fight, but we've won an advantage. And getting that advantage has evened out the disadvantages, which is really, really good for us, you know? Sometimes the first step to winning is to lose less. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if there's a weakness by us walking through
Neutralize.
this doorway based on their angles, then for us to go this way, it didn't require us to force a cooldown. It didn't require us to hit a shot. It didn't require us to get a kill. It didn't require us to use an ultimate. We didn't even have to take an angle. It was simply by making a good rotation that we've opened the door, we've flipped the map 90 degrees, right? And we've set up a more fair fight for our retake. And any time that you can get a 50-50 fight as the attacking team, you should be very happy with yourself. Because almost always the attacking team is going to have a 30 and the defending team is going to have a 70. So if you can find a way to rotate and make it a 50-50 for free, that's super, super good. Make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay. This is also another reason why Symmetra is so broken on retakes. Because Symmetra can look at a team that's holding you here and say, okay, bye-bye, TP to here, take the point, and flip the map on them. So this is the idea of map flipping, which is one of my favorite strategies in Overwatch. It's something that I use literally every day, all the time. I coach my teams on how to like use it to their advantage and use it as a strength. It's something that a lot of people don't know how to do properly, and it's very abusable if you know what you're doing, you know? But here we end up walking into their angles. We get our Suzu forced. You know, the fight feels pretty difficult. Okay. Is there any point, because I don't want to take too long, is there any specific point on this map that you guys feel like you struggle with the most, like fights that you want to look at?
I think it was that first one, to be honest. That one was really rough.
It's definitely that first one.
Because I
Any
think
other
Well, we
point
got time for like one more, so you know, take
Maybe
your pick. We'll do
point-
some extra stuff.
Was it the
for
third one?
the left one. Third one I think was this point.
yeah, I think it was this point.
This
yeah.
point? This point difficult?
I don't know if this one was super difficult.
I think we lost this one, right?
I don't remember.
Oh.
Looks like it's a
Otherwise-
bit of a dogfight.
Point,
We
think we
lost
did.
this.
Yeah, we did lose this one.
You did lose this point, yeah. We can take a look at this one if you guys want. Does
I
this
think
work?
we get clocked here. They're like,
All right,
just
let's
around.
see what happened. So just like New Junk City, our goal when these like second or third or fourth or fifth points open up is to get there first, which it looks like we accomplished that goal. So I'm
We
actually,
win.
yeah, I think we should for sure win first fight off of this positioning because we just have superior angles. So let's see what happens here. So the points unlocking in like 20 seconds or so. I feel like we probably can peak this a little bit more, be a little bit braver. But really what we want to do is we want to make sure we don't die while we're like farming our ultimates. And then we want to make sure that like on their walk in here, we get like a collapse. Okay. So we want to punish them on rotation. So something I'd maybe be thinking about is like maybe my JQ can play this corner and then my my Venture can play like here and like wait for a 3-2-1 call and then go in from here. Could look really good. And then maybe my Sojourn's playing back like main somewhere, like over here. And then my Kiriko is like also playing next to my Sojourn, maybe over here from this angle. Then my Lucio can play on the wall. You guys kind of see these like theoretical setups.
Yeah, I see that.
So like everybody can kind of start calculating like where would I like to stand? Like because I got here first, because I'm the team that's on defense, I currently have all the space. I have all the map control. So since we got here first, we have our line. This is all of our space. And so what that means is that we have free choice. We have freedom to choose where we stand. And if you guys were a really high level team, I would say, okay, if we don't find the most optimal places to stand, we're trolling, right? Because we have so much time. Like as these guys are rotating, we have so much downtime to really make sure that we greed the best possible positions. So if we're not standing in those positions, we're doing something wrong. Okay. This doesn't look too bad at all. I think it looks fine. This is another position that I think is okay. Doesn't look too bad. Nice. Make sure we just cap the point. Nice. Yellow team's trolling. Okay, this is great. So we have our Lucio here. We have our Kiriko here. These positions are not bad for those characters. Here for my Queen and for my Venture also doesn't feel too bad. The problem is that we're missing out on triangles. Okay.
Yeah.
Have I ever talked to you guys about triangle theory?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay.
I think I've heard it
Let's
before,
learn
but-
let's learn triangle theory today, okay? The way triangle theory works is like this. Okay, hold on. If you look at this, you'll notice it makes a triangle. One vertex is the enemy. And then this is one of our angles. And another one of our angles. And what we would like to do is to set up this nice little triangle as much as humanly possible. Basically, we want to like take the enemy, want to draw a box on them and form a 90-degree angle. Okay, whenever possible. So what you guys will see here is currently we can draw a straight line. And what that means is that our clump of people are shooting in this direction and their clump of people are shooting in this direction. Do we have some sort of pinch or crossfire or second angle right now?
Not particularly.
No,
but
we
it'd also
don't,
be kinda
right?
hard to
Everyone's
make one.
basically just shooting this way. Now, what you'll notice is based on the space, as the enemy team walks forward to like here, now do we have an opportunity to pinch them and create angles?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, 100%, right? We could have somebody play here and then someone playing over here and then someone playing over here. So it's actually easier for us to angle them and get some sort of crossfire the more we give them space. Okay? And this is something that's really, really important to understand for like dive comps especially. A lot of times dive teams go too quickly. They dive you in areas where you're too stable. There's not enough angles. The dive team should wait for you to cross into space where you're vulnerable in order to like pounce on their target, you know? So when we're looking here, the main problem with the way that we play this is, number one, we've done a great job getting the point flip. That's really, really good. We've managed to cap the point. But the problem is that all of my main damage characters are looking down the exact same arrow. And that is a problem to me. Now, does that mean that we're going to lose the fight? Not necessarily. But it does mean that we're not positioned optimally. And that's a problem. So what I would rather have is for my Venture to be somewhere here, shooting this space. Or I'd rather have my Sojourn postured somewhere over here, or somewhere over here shooting this space. And the reason why is because any person on yellow team who tries to touch the objective is going to get shot from the sides as they're trying to touch. And it's very important that we have somebody on the objective as well to get this like other angle, this other side. You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we need this kind of like surrounding idea. And right now we're not doing a great job of that, but we're probably still going to win the fight anyways, because that's just what happens at this level, you know? Nice, good fight. Very good fight. No trades, no trades, no trades. Very clean fight, guys. Yeah. So the fight ended up looking really, really good. It's just, you know, we could have positioned in a way that made it even easier. But already the fight looks pretty solid. Let's see if we fix it this time. Do we stack our hit scan? Do we stack our tank? Do we stack all of our damage carries on the same angle? Interesting. So they're actually doing their own little triangle is what you guys will see, right? They have their own little thing going. They got someone here, they got someone here, and then we're standing in the middle of their angles. So this is actually looking pretty good for them. It's not looking too bad. Let's see what we do here. Okay. So there's a few different ways to deal with an off angle, right? One of the ways to deal with an off angle is to just run at one of them. The number one thing you don't want to do is to stand in the middle. You don't want to get sandwiched. So you got to attack one of the ends. So for example, if our entire team decided that they were going to walk this way and push them into this room, what does the JQ, the Genji, and the Kiriko see?
They see that you're back.
They don't see anything because we're
Oh, I
around
see.
the corner. You know what I mean? So their angle doesn't actually get value because they don't have anyone on their screen to shoot. Now, if we were to go over here, it's sort of the same thing, right? The Soj would have to swing so wide to like here in order to influence any sort of fight that goes on here. Because if she's standing here, she can't see through this wall, right? So if we can push them super deep this way, maybe that's a good idea. I would probably say you have two ideas that would probably work here. One idea, which is the primary one that I think you guys should go for, is the second you notice these guys are over here, which to be honest with you guys should have scouted out like much earlier. Just go on them. Just speed amp, run them down. There's no excuse for a Sojourn to be able to peek us like this and for her to survive. And the problem is that if we wait too long, we end up getting sandwiched and then it feels really hard to go anywhere. We want to go as early as possible. We want to force these guys out before we start to bleed out from like their superior angles. The other thing we could do is actually take a step back. And I don't recommend this in this specific context, but I do recommend it just in general. It's not that bad of a play. So if we stand here and they have an angle here and an angle here, do we feel good or bad?
Bad.
Very bad. Very, 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 very bad. Right? But if we're like here, or maybe even here, and they have an angle like this, do we still feel bad?
Not
Not
as
really.
bad.
Not as bad. Not as
Not
bad.
great, but
Maybe it still feels a little bit unfortunate because we have to concede a bit of space, but it actually doesn't feel too terrible. So for example, if their team had an angle here and the enemy was over here, and then we were positioned like behind this line somewhere as a team. So all of us were like looking like this. Are we stuck in a triangle or no?
No.
No, we're not, because these guys can't see us. So what's
Yeah.
going to happen is that they're going to try to peek us. These guys are like, hey, I want to go shoot somebody. I can't see anyone right now. So they're going to rotate to here. And what that means is that they're going to be standing about here. Their team's going to be standing with them. And all of a sudden, we've ended up in a situation where we can draw that line again. And that means what we've successfully done is we've rotated to an area where we get to absorb both the angles and we force these angles, instead of pinching us, to stack. So is that the best option in this case? Probably not. I would say definitely go attack this angle. But in theory, this is one of the ways that you can beat off angles is to rotate yourself so the angles stack on top of one another. Does this make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make
Okay.
sense.
Nice. A super easy way to illustrate this is like imagine someone was standing here and someone was standing here and you were standing in the middle. And then you somehow like picked yourself up and teleported yourself to like
like here,
stand all the way over here. They both have to look this way, you know? So it's that sort of logic, right? Now it looks like I think we end up losing this fight, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it gets pretty scrappy. Okay. Now, how do we retake this? Okay. Okay, this split really, really, really don't like. What should these guys do right now?
Anton.
Rush the queen down.
Just go. Just go on the queen, right? There's no way anyone from blue team can save the queen.
I think that is about to be what happened.
I didn't even know
They
you were
don't. They
there,
don't even notice. They don't even notice that the queen is here.
He was
because
crouching. It's invisible.
I'm invisible.
At this level, people don't know how to scout properly. Is the problem?
Yeah.
So people are just not very good at acquiring information. That's why I'm trying to push for you guys how important information is, right? The best players in the world, it's actually kind of similar like to something like League almost, right? If you guys play League. I don't play League.
Nope.
But I know that in League, vision is very important, like placing down wards,
Oh, yeah.
making sure to
Oh,
check
I see, yeah.
bushes, like clearing space. All of that type of stuff is so important for League and like communicating where you see people. It's similar to Overwatch in that sense, where the best players in the world are very, very good at acquiring information. Where is their
Yeah,
Soj, guys? Where is their Lucio? I have EMP. Where's their Kiriko? Can we force Suzu? Where is their tank standing? I don't hear anything, guys. They might be hiding a corner. Care. Can we clear this? Can we clear that? You know, that's how professionals communicate in this game all the time. Always about information. All right, we got a bit of a dogfight going on right now. Okay. It looks like a very long, kind of like extended, drawn out fight. A little bit difficult to parse through. Nice. We should win off of this, I think. This is not a good slide. Definitely not a good slide. I think right now the number one thing on our mind should be to stack as a team and just chill. The problem is because we started split to begin with, when my Kiriko starts over here and then she uses her TP to go here, we leave my Soj behind. So my Soj doesn't actually have any heals, right? Which means it's very difficult for my Soj to live here. So even though my Soj gets the pick, my Soj ends up dying. So we end up in a 4v4 anyways. Now here, we managed to hit the Kiriko. We would have liked to hit more people because she just gets cleansed anyways. So I think what we should have done is like peek this a little bit closer with our ult, especially once we see that what like goes away. We want to aim this more to the left and get all of these guys instead of just the Kiriko, because we should know that she doesn't have Suzu. She just used the Suzu. We saw it on our screen. Here we end up pretty split. We got a lot of people doing a lot of different things. Really good knife on the Genji. We should go for an axe as soon as possible. Okay, surely we have our axe, right? We do have our axe, but we don't go for the axe. Not soon enough. Or maybe we do. Maybe I'm just blind. Oh, we go for it early. Okay. I would rather us have the axe now. I would rather we save the axe for when it's guaranteed to hit. What is going to happen if we try to walk on Lucio's and axe them?
He's gonna boop and wall ride.
It's going to boop you away, right? And that axe cooldown is not a good thing to trade for a boop. So what you really want to try to do is like not try to axe Lucio's as much unless it's like in a very close range environment where they can't really boop you away. I think it'd be better for us to try to follow up with an axe hitting as many people as possible, not only to maximize our self-healing and do the most damage possible, but also to reset the cooldown of it as fast as possible. Because the more people you hit, the faster the cooldown is. Yeah, we end up dying here, which is unfortunate. This Kiri should die. We gotta kill this Kiri. Okay, good. Yeah, but the fight just evolves. This is one I can't blame you guys too much for. It's a very messy fight. I think there's stuff that we could have done better as a team. Like especially with ult economy, leading into a fight like that, you want it to be a little bit better. But sometimes fights like that at this level are more about just, you know, not necessarily getting lucky. But sometimes it's going to come down to just somebody randomly hitting a shot. You know what I mean? And that happens sometimes. But overall, not too bad. But yeah.